Hi everyone, this is TRGG coming at you with a new video, which is one I would make once I went through most of the classes on the BFA beta. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Battle for Azeroth content. Okay, so yeah, in this one I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the overall class design going into BFA, which is a topic a lot of people are very worried about, and rightfully so. If you have been following the Finding My Perfect Main series, you might know that a few classes are very well put together and actually play really smooth, while a bunch of other classes don't look and feel nearly finished at all. As someone that has been playing World of Warcraft for over 10 years, I always associate a new expansion with a lot of new and interesting stuff. Not only new dungeons, raids and some new features, but also things like a new talent row, new spells, abilities, and of course changes within a class. In the beta right now, your level 110 character plays more or less the same once you reach max level, and I'll talk more on that later in the video. Legion was an expansion where we saw a massive overhaul for all of the classes and the introduction of our artifact weapon and of course all of the different traits. This gave all of the classes a lot of depth and a new button, aka your artifact ability, and the progression system of your artifact traits. But of course in BFA we have to say goodbye to all of these things. Personally, I also think that Blizzard wasn't really sure in which direction they wanted to go with certain classes during the beta, with for example the Fury Warrior and the Balanced Druid, that only got changed very recently and is still being worked on. Or for example the Shadow Priest and Enhancement Shaman, where the development team basically admitted that they will probably ship BFA with some classes that might feel very clunky and unfinished. Yes, of course, I know class design, gameplay, and balancing is an ongoing process where Blizzard keeps changing and fine-tuning classes for the entire duration of the expansion. Most of you probably remember the insane amount of hotfixes that happened during Legion because some classes scaled really well and others scaled really poorly. However, personally, if I was going to main Priest or Shaman or any of the other classes that don't feel completely finished when BFA launches, and the only thing that the developers had to say is that they will try to fix it in the near future, well, I'm not sure if I would want to play a class that doesn't feel well put together and wait for 3 months hoping for a patch to be released that might fix my class. Like not being completely sure in which direction some of the classes are going in BFA, the developers are still not quite sure as to how the Azeroth gear and progression system will work. Currently on the beta, the Azeroth traits are still a mixture of utility, defensive and damaging buffs, but we still need to get our hands on some game-changing Azeroth traits, which hopefully gives our class and character another spell or ability, and frankly, if this would be the case, it would definitely solve a lot of problems in Battle for Azeroth. It would make a huge difference if, let's say, people knew that some cool specific class Azeroth ability was there waiting for them once they reached max level. Another reason why a lot of players are not that hyped at all for BFA is because they had to say goodbye to their artifact abilities, traits, and legendaries. I said this sentence already too many times, but going into BFA, the overall feeling is that all of the classes are losing a bunch of stuff and are barely getting anything in return. But maybe you do play a class which saw their artifact trait or legendary item get reworked into a talent. Most of the time, this means that the other two talents on the same row can't compete with your artifact ability, trait, or legendary effect, and this results in a lot of dead talents. I'm not saying that the talent tree and choices are bad in BFA, because there are indeed a lot of classes where it's actually hard to make a choice on a talent row because all of the talents are solid choices. But with, for example, the Fire Mage Phoenix Flames talent, well yeah, the other two talents that are on the same row are never going to be played for the entire expansion. Next is the GCD problem. Blizzard introduced the changes coming to the global cooldown system very early on during alpha testing, with almost everything sharing a global cooldown, from racials to trinkets and offensive cooldowns. Even charge was on the freaking global cooldown. This resulted in a massive shitstorm within the WoW community, but Blizzard kept pushing forward even though nobody liked what they were doing to how global cooldowns worked in BFA. The development team were stubborn. Even Ian stated during a live Q&A that they knew the overall feedback was very negative, but they were making this change for the longevity of the game. Which is fine by me, but if you're making such a big deal about it in the very beginning, but as time passes and people just don't stop complaining and Blizzard starts to take more and more stuff back off the GCD, then I really don't see the point in creating that big of a shitstorm about such a controversial change in the first place. But still, there are some classes with a lot of offensive cooldowns who still suffer from this change. Although I do find the development team's solution to the Fury Warrior problem quite funny, which came down to just removing the offensive cooldowns that were causing the global cooldown problem in the first place. But hey, it did work, so props to them. Next one, this is probably the biggest reason why a lot of people are not happy with the class design in BFA, which is winners and losers. Yes, I know Blizzard did say that classes who played well in Legion would most likely not see a major overhaul going into BFA. But still, this does create a winning side and a losing side. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who have always sticked with the same class for each and every expansion are right now thinking about re-rolling to something else. Why? Because there's such a massive difference between certain classes. Of course, I'm going to use the Warlock as an example, but this is a point that has to be made. The problem is that yes, Blizzard can make changes to a class, but if it turns out that the changes are very good and at the same time the gameplay is amazingly satisfying, then yes, of course, the game developers succeeded in making a fun and new class, no doubt about it, but in the process of doing so, they have created a problem in that Battle for Azeroth is a new expansion. People paid money, they expect something new, interesting and fun. But if they log onto their character when patch 8.0 goes live, and they realize their class plays exactly the same but with less buttons, then of course your immediate reaction is looking for other classes that did see some good changes and new things, like for example Demonology. Personally, I do think that an insane amount of people are going to re-roll mains in Battle for Azeroth, because for a lot of people that played classes who didn't see any changes, it's just going to feel like Legion 2.0, and rightfully so. When you would take a look at what might have caused all of the class design problems to begin with, then you might or might not be surprised from what I'm about to tell you. I'm talking about the worst expansion ever created, Warlords of Draenor. To be honest, it's quite insane how Warlords of Draenor, an expansion that launched almost 4 years ago, can still have a big and negative impact on all of the future expansions. Why, you might ask? Well, the answer is very simple. Back then, Blizzard really didn't have much of a choice. WoW was dying and Legion was the all-or-nothing expansion. They literally had to give people everything to make them come back to World of Warcraft, your own class-specific artifact weapons with their own special artifact abilities and traits, which you could upgrade with artifact power in your own special class-specific order hall, giving legendaries to literally everyone. And yes, this did work because Legion will be remembered as a very good expansion. However, in Battle for Azeroth, we have to say goodbye to all of these things, and I'm pretty convinced that this is most likely one of the biggest obstacles the development team who are in charge of class design have to face. And that is again all for this video. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are about the current class design in BFA. As always, don't forget to drop a like on the video and of course subscribe to the channel if you want to see more WoW videos. For the people that are already subscribed, don't forget to click on the bell icon next to the subscriber button. That way you'll automatically get notified when I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.